12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Are you ready for the show? Let's go!
Starring Greg from My Weight Loss Life. Starring Brian from Whitco's Carnivore. Starring Aaron from Brewing Better Living. Welcome to the Low Carb Lounge. Grab a drink and pull up a chair. It's showtime.
How's it going, my friends?
Hey.
How's
What's
everybody
going on?
doing? Oh man, I'm trying to get used to this. If you see all the blue in my glasses, I got a big ass monitor now.
Is that the official name?
Yeah, it's a big ass monitor.
Big ass monitor.
It's like 27 inches and it's huge from what I was used to. So what have you guys been up to?
Just ready to go to sleep. But you guys always know that on
Ready to go
Thursday
to
night.
sleep.
I fall asleep.
We're just starting. What do you mean ready to go to sleep?
I know. Well, don't forget that I'm in a different time zone. Well, no, I'm sorry, Brian. I always forget we're in the same time zone. Hello. Woohoo. See, that's how tired I am.
It's only 7 o'clock. I mean,
I know, but you know what? I've been making it a point to go to bed by like 10, and I've been getting up like on my own without the alarm before 6 every day now.
so we got like 3 hours then. We're good.
I know. I don't know. Whatever. It's one of those days.
So what kind of weather have you guys had? I was just kind of curious. It's been beautiful here in North Iowa. 50, it was like 53 today, but I think after today it starts going back to reality, 40s and 30s next week. So a little bit colder, but how about you guys? What kind of weather have you had?
Nice. A little like not super cold, but probably in the upper 40s, I would say today, and bright and sunny. So decent.
We've been in the 50s, and same as Aaron, it's been nice and sunny.
Yeah.
So here it always seems to feel warmer than the temperature when the sun's out. I don't know why, but I definitely noticed that here. Like when I used to live back in Ohio, Michigan, I didn't notice that when the sun was out. But here in Virginia, when the sun's out, it just feels warmer than the actual temperature. It's different.
Yep. Spring's right around the corner. You know what? It's not that far away. It's surprising, but so far it's going fast this year.
Spring is next month already.
Yeah.
Good.
And so the groundhog did not see his shadow, so that means that spring comes early, right?
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why I always think it's the other way around. Good. I'm glad. Thank you, Mr. Hog.
Yep. Hey, I just want to remind our viewers, make sure you smash the like button. And, if you could put in the comments where you're from, we'd love to see that. I just want to acknowledge that there could be people listening on a podcast for this episode, and we appreciate you being here and listening. And we want to thank all our viewers for tuning in. We got a great show tonight, and the topic is going to be managing type 1 diabetes with a low carb diet. Our guest Brad will be on here in a little while, and he'll talk about what he's been doing with a low carb diet and managing his type 1 diabetes. So should be a great show, but I'm just going to see what we got for comments here. And I saw Eric's watching on a 32-inch TV. Hello, William. How you doing? Hello, Susan. Good to see you. Hey, Brad. He's ready for spring. And Eric loves El Nino. Yeah, I can't complain about that. Yeah, I heard it's like he's like 80% of the time he is correct, is what I heard the other day. I don't know if that's fact or not, but It sounded like it, but who knows? Hello,
It's funny.
Susan. Like I said, if you want to put in the comments where you're from, that'd be great. And smash the like button and get that baby out to YouTube. So I just wanted to ask you guys, usually we ask what you guys are drinking tonight, but I'm going to ask you, what did you have for supper? Or what are you going to have for supper?
Well, I guess I'll go since are we going clockwise?
Yeah,
I guess
go ahead, Aaron. Ladies
Sure.
first.
Well, I am drinking coffee, but it's iced to decaf tonight with a little heavy cream. But I did just eat my dinner right before this. I had a pretty big burger. And since I do have some carbs, I had a small baked potato with some butter on that. And that was pretty much it. It was pretty simple for my final meal.
Nice.
How about you guys?
Go ahead, Brian.
So I don't think I'm eating dinner tonight. My lunch was pretty big. I had like a 22-ounce New York strip, 2 ground beef burger patties. Yeah, they were like 1/3 pound patties, so about 2/3
Nice.
a pound. And 2 hard-boiled eggs. So I ate a lot earlier, and I don't know that I'm gonna eat again. So
Understandable, especially if you're hungry, right?
I do have my trusty water bottle with me, though.
Oh, good deal. Yep. Yep. I had a Omaha steak burger tonight. My father-in-law got some Omaha steaks because he's watching somebody's cats for a while, and he got this big order of meat shipped to him, and he didn't have room for all in his freezer for all of it. So he gave some of it to us. So we enjoyed that for supper. And I had the hamburger with a couple eggs on it, actually. It was pretty good. So kind of a light supper, but I'll maybe have some scrambled eggs a little later, around 8 or 9, probably 9 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
My time. And
you're
that's
brave.
always
I
good.
can't eat that close to dinner. to bedtime, rather.
I don't go to bed till usually midnight, 1 o'clock. So
Oh, my goodness.
Some of us stay up later, Aaron.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. Can't help it.
Turn the groundhog into jerky. Yeah, you got that right, Eric. Fasting today for fun. Yeah, that's always good for sure. All right. So Aaron, I know you'd mentioned something you wanted to talk about and bring up, and it kind of ties in with our topic tonight. I just kind of want to remind everybody that our topic tonight is managing type 1 diabetes with a low carb diet. And I'm going to bring up a screen that you were talking about. And let's get this on here, guys. Then I'll let you have the floor, Aaron. Let's see, get this up here.
Are we subscribing? No.
No, I'll get that closed off there.
So I just briefly was looking through things about tonight's topic, and I came across this article, and it's Healthline. So, you could take it or leave it, whether or not you think that's a good source. But I thought that the article was actually pretty decent because they basically talked about what we'll probably hear Brad speak about tonight. And they also linked to studies supporting it. So I found that interesting. If there's anyone watching that maybe finds this topic interesting, wants to bring it up with their doctor, and wants some information to bring with them, this might be something where you can get some sources, some studies, something like stuff like that, in case your practitioner isn't maybe familiar with it, because we know that sometimes low carb isn't, looked upon that favorably. So just a little source that might help somebody out.
Yeah, perfect. I did include the link there in the chat, so if you want to copy and paste that and look it up later or look it up now, you sure can. There's definitely a lot there. Just scrolling through it here, there's quite a bit to see. I'm not sure if you guys can see this or not, but there's definitely some good information there, worth checking out anyways.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. It gets into some of the things that you can eat. And of course, like 2 of the primary ones on there are meats and dairy. So that's right up our alley, right?
Yep, definitely. I would say so.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Perfect. Let's go back to the comments here and see who's all in here. Here's some more 4 fried eggs, bacon earlier this afternoon. Small piece of leftover roast. Oh, yeah, leftover roast is good. Hello, Christy. How are you? And there's that. Here's that link, too, for those of you who are just wondering there. If you wanted to copy and paste that. I see Brian also put that up. Perfect. All right. Once again, be sure to smash the like button if you're just getting in here, and want to thank you for tuning in tonight. And go ahead and put where you're from. I know I put a few up earlier where everybody's from, but if you haven't done that yet, go ahead and throw it in there. It's always nice to see that. And if you want to put in the comments what you're having for supper, we've seen a couple of those, but if there's some other people that want to put it in there, that would be great. Okay, guys, I think we're about ready for our next segment. And I hope you guys are all ready for this. Should be some fun. I'm just going to see here. There's a couple more comments here. Perfect. All righty. It's time.
Welcome to Lounge Lizard Trivia, where you too can be the smartest person in the room.
All right. Who's going to be the smartest person in the room tonight? That's what I want to know. I know it's not going to be me. Even though I have all the answers. All right. How about you, Brian? Brian, I think you're wittingly smart there. You just
I'm just amazed that you actually remembered the little intro like I did not last week. So I blew it. You remembered. You're good. So you're smarter than me, obviously.
Thanks. I am drinking water, by the way, everyone. Wish it was something a little stiffer, but we'll take it. All right, let's get into our Low Carb Lounge trivia and get into that a little bit. Let's start with our first question. And it really has to do with our topic tonight, managing type 1 diabetes with a low carb diet. And what do we have? How many people in the United States have diabetes? Any guesses?
Are we talking percentages, or do you want an actual number?
Just think of millions, okay?
Oh my God.
That way. Just remember, there's about 320 million in the United States.
Wait, how many?
320 million in the United States. So how many people have diabetes?
Okay.
And go ahead and put your comments in there. We'll put them up there with some guesses. 30 million. We got 3.2. And if you're listening to this on a podcast, just play along at home or in your mind.
Yell it into your phone.
Yeah, that works. Once again, how many people in the USA have diabetes?
We'll
let a few
diagnose, I'm guessing, too.
So we saw 30, we saw 3.2. Brad's 35 type 2 and 1 combined.
So we're looking at like 10%. Probably.
Susan, 20 million. 120 million. Those are all good guesses. All right, guys. Once again, for the last time, how many people in the USA have diabetes? The answer is about 38 million people have diabetes, and 1 in 5 of them don't know they have it. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
That's a lot.
Yes, it is.
And that's diabetes, not pre-diabetes, but actual diabetes.
Right? Yep. Too many, like Brad said.
Could you imagine how many it would be with pre-diabetes too?
Well, since you guys are talking about that, here's our next question. How many people in the U.S. have pre-diabetes?
Are you kidding me? That was the next question. We couldn't have set that up for you any better. I mean,
okay. I'm going to guess higher this time.
So this is just pre-diabetes, not pre-diabetes and diabetes combined.
Right, it's pre-diabetes, so they aren't quite diabetic yet, but they're close.
Okay.
I used to be pre-diabetic, by the way. Brian, you might want to rethink your answer.
Well,
15 million. Did you guess 30 million before?
yeah, but this is just pre-diabetes on top of the 30 million that I was thinking diabetes. That would be 45 million total.
Out of 320 million people.
But yeah.
80 million.
Should I say 318
50 million? 45 million.
Huh.
Once again, how many people in the U.S. have pre-diabetes? All right, guys, I think I'm going to go ahead and give you the answer. I think you're going to be shocked. You'll be surprised. 98 million in the U.S., over a third have pre-diabetes, and more than 8 in 10 of them don't know they have it.
Now, that's not surprising that 8 out of 10 don't know it. That part's not surprising, but damn, 98 million.
So,
yeah, and the other was 38 million.
yep.
So 136 million either have pre-diabetes or diabetes.
Yep.
That's insane.
Percent of the population, 45%, somewhere in there.
Yeah, because there's like 320 million roughly in the United States.
That's incredible.
It's a problem. Now that brings us to our next question. Where does diabetes rank in the top 10 as far as the leading cause of death goes? So it's going to be an answer of 1 through 10, which is the leading cause of death is number 1, and then it ranks back. So where do you think diabetes ranks on that?
That's what I say, Brian. I'm going to say heart disease is number 1.
You guys are ranking 2.
Eric.
Carnivore. Yep. Brad's saying 5th.
Brad might know this answer better than me, so I don't know.
Yeah, he might. That might be right.
Christy said that her husband and her were watching a comedy special, and the comedian made pre-diabetes a huge joke. It didn't seem funny to me. No, it's not. You know, that's the thing I will say about pre-diabetes, though. You can cure that if you eat the proper human diet and get some exercise.
And how many of those other diseases or conditions on that list are connected to the diabetes?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
True.
Yep, I can see that's where you guys guessed it too. Susan's 2, looking to Brad guessed. We'll go to the answer, guys. Once again, where does diabetes rank in the top 10 as far as leading cause of death goes? It is the 8th leading cause of death in the United States and may be underreported. So,
what were the other ones? Does it say?
No, I did not have those, but I know like cancer's up there. You know, there's other diseases, but yeah, that's just for the diabetes part. That's what it was. The next thing is not going to be a question. It's going to be more of a fact. And I thought it was kind of important to show this. Type 2 diabetes accounts for approximately 90 to 95% of all diagnosed cases of diabetes. Type 1 accounts for approximately 5 to 10%. So that was kind of an interesting fact. And then I do have another question here. How much money does it cost the medical lost wages for people with diabetes in the U.S.? It means the total dollars for everybody if you add it all up, not the individual. How much do you think the costs are with medical costs, lost work, wages for people that are diagnosed with diabetes per year? And I'll give you guys a hint. It's in the billion. It's in the billions.
Oh, well.
Yeah. I mean, just the medical and the prescriptions and so forth.
I think of all the people that have it.
Wow.
It's staggering. Brad's saying 100 billion. 1.3, and Brian's saying 350. Susan's saying 2 billion. It's staggering. It's crazy. Once again, I'll go ahead and put the answer up there. How much money does it cost the medical lost wages for people with this with diabetes in the U.S.? Total dollars for everyone? It's staggering, guys. 413 billion yearly.
Year.
Yep.
It's scary.
It is. And I got a couple more facts for you guys that I wanted to share. This one right here, type 2 diabetes accounts for oh, did I do this one already? Yeah, I already did this one. Sorry, guys.
No, you didn't do it, Greg. It's okay.
You want to do it again? It was
It's fun.
I don't know. I had it
wanted
under
to hear it
twice.
again because it was.
Here's
pretty
the other fact.
exciting.
In the last 20 years, the number of adults diagnosed with diabetes has more than doubled as the American population has aged and become more overweight and obese. So just in 20 years, the rate has doubled.
scary.
Isn't that crazy? All right. Yeah, it's staggering when you see that, and I don't want to make I think it kind of ties with the topic tonight, and we realize that diabetes is a huge problem, and a lot of people don't even know it. I mean, they don't know they have it. They don't know they're pre-diabetic. So it's a big deal, and I guess that segues into our guest coming on tonight. We're going to bring him on here in a few seconds, but aren't those numbers crazy? It's staggering.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can make a difference,
And what's interesting is you don't hear it as much here in the United States, but especially in like some other countries, they're really starting to label Alzheimer's and dementia as type 3 diabetes.
Yeah.
So you add that into the mix too. And they're all basically because of the same problem, right? Insulin resistance. So it's sad.
Yeah, it is. So for sure. All right. Well, I think it's time to bring on our guest for the evening. And I think he's ready to go and backstage. So we're going to bring him on to the show. Let's welcome to the show the one, the only, Brad Tiedemann.
Not Central.
Hey,
how you doing, Brad?
Voice, Greg.
Now that was a welcome.
That was.
It was.
Everybody's giving me a hard time about the lady voice. It's like, all right, you guys want to hear the real voice?
That was good. That was good.
It was good.
So how you doing, Brad?
Good. So now you see the cost of everything. Like you guys can support my GoFundMe account, right? So that.
Yeah, it's
very unfortunate, and most of it has to do with obesity and people being overweight. I mean, that's the whole type 2 drive. But obviously, I have the type 1, so I'm in that 5 to 10% diabetics, and then type 2 is usually is driven by obesity and eating the wrong things. So, which is why with type 2 you can actually get out of it by eating the right things and getting your weight back to where it should be. So, yep.
So Brad, I was just gonna note the viewers. You can find Brad on his YouTube channel at Low Carb Type 1 Wolf. Go over and give him a sub. I know he's just kind of getting started on his YouTube channel, but I know he did an interview recently with a gentleman who talks quite a bit about diabetes, and I know that was a good experience for him. It was a great piece that he did about you and anybody in the diabetes community. I know Brian, and Aaron, I don't think I shared that with you, but I'll find that and share that with you so you can see that interview. It was a good one and definitely worth checking out. Actually, if everybody wants to just look for it, I'll post it in the comments after the show. So you can go back to the live tab and check it out. I'll have it in the comments so you can link it up to that, or I'll put it in this description on the replay so you can see that.
Yeah, that was a Beat Diabetes channel. So it was Derek Polak. He was a type 2 diabetic years ago, and he got out of it by eating low carb, eating healthy. And he does a lot of talks about type 2, but he wanted to talk to me because of the type 1 experience. And I talked to him about the successes that I've had and my wife have had on the low carb diet, because my wife is also a type 1 diabetic. So we got two of us driving the same plan together, which is honestly very helpful, having the support from her. So,
Brad, why don't you tell the viewers a little bit, go ahead and tell them your story, about diabetes, and then you can lead into the low carb diet and all that kind of stuff. But you can have the floor for a little bit here and talk as much as you want. We'll ask some questions a little later, but yeah, why don't you go tell us your story, bud.
Okay, well, I have a tendency to ramble on, so you can stop me when you need to, but
I'll go like this.
Yeah. All right, so basically, I've been a diabetic since 1990, right after I graduated from high school. Is when I got diagnosed. I actually was in college, so it was October 5th of 1990 was when I got diagnosed. I had all the typical symptoms, so I lost a lot of weight, urinating all the time, just sick, got very weak. I hated the doctor. I'm still not a big doctor guy. I probably waited longer to go to the doctor than I should have. And actually, I weighed 205 pounds when I graduated from high school. And the day I went into the doctor, they put me on the scale and I weighed 135 pounds. So I just completely tanked, which, it makes sense. I was basically starving myself, being diabetic and not producing insulin anymore. Got really, really sick. And honestly, what put me to the decision to finally go to the doctor and see what the heck was going on is I was mowing the yard and I was still living at home. And my parents don't have a very big yard, and I got about halfway done and I just couldn't even push the lawnmower anymore. I was just completely exhausted. So that's when I finally agreed because my parents are trying to get me to go to the doctor, and I just told them I wasn't going to do it. And I finally just went, and then that's when I found out that I was a type 1 diabetic. And my jaw dropped when I saw the scale, to be honest with you, that I weighed 135 pounds. Because a lot of times when you're losing weight and you look at yourself in the mirror, you really don't notice it unless you look back at old pictures or whatever. And I think it was just a little bit of me being an 18-year-old kid and kind of in denial and just, like I said, not liking doctors, and took me a little while longer to go in, but ended up being hospitalized for 3 days. As you can imagine, they set me up on the standard American diet. Basically, it was all, back then, it wasn't carb counting like it is now. It was more eating so many starches, so many vegetables, so many fruits. They did tell you to stay away from, cakes and cookies and stuff back then. But it was still not carb restrictive whatsoever. It was eat pastas. I mean, I sat in the hospital and they fed me burgers and potatoes and, a lot of things that I don't eat now. And so they set you up at the dietitian, get you on some kind of a diet plan. Like I said, that was more serving watching than anything. And then put you on insulin to match the intake that you have. So I was taking probably 4 shots a day with like a low acting insulin that lasted all day, and then some fast acting insulin 3 times a day for each meal. So yeah, it's like 4 shots a day, and then checking my blood sugar 5 or 6 times a day as well. That's the way it was 30 years ago. So you can imagine over 30 years, like, a lot's changed. It's probably 10 years ago, probably got into more carb counting, maybe a little longer than that, where I think that made a difference. There's insulin pens, which came out probably 15, 20 years ago, that made life a little bit easier because I could just carry a pen around with me instead of a vial in and a syringe. So that helped out a lot. But probably for the last 14 or 15 years, the wife and I have both been on insulin pumps, which is a big change from using shots, taking shots. And then also probably 3 or 4 years ago, we got continuous glucose monitoring systems, so we can see what our blood sugar is every 5 minutes. That makes a big difference. But through all that, we still were on the standard American diet all the time. We never got told how to do anything differently. So we still did a lot of roller coastering with blood sugars. When you're a type 1 diabetic, you, like before we changed to low carb, which I'll get into, like you ate so many carbs and then you tried to match the carbs that you're eating with the amount of insulin that you take. And so there's like 42 different things that can affect your blood sugar. So when you're taking, let's say the last dietitian I had was 75 grams per meal I was basically told I could consume. And when you're eating that many carbs, like the accuracy of guessing how many carbs you're eating isn't great, because even the carbs they put on the boxes can be plus or minus like 20%. So even when you're reading that label, it's not going to be exact. But there's so many things that affect your blood sugar, like exercise, what mood you're in, just the different types of carbs you eat. So whether there's a high glycemic index or a low glycemic index, there's just so many factors that it's really impossible to hit that number just right and to take exactly the right amount of insulin. So let's say 2 years ago, what would happen is I would eat 75 carbs. I would take insulin for 75 carbs. What kind of was the recommended carb to insulin ratio that we have in the pumps. And then my blood sugar would basically go up to like 250 to 275. And then after an hour or so, it would start coming back down. And sometimes it would come back down fast. And the goal was always to get to 160 2 hours after you ate. That's just kind of the standard goal that they put you on. So you check your blood sugar a couple hours after you ate and you want to be 160 or less. Well, when you're doing that, like what happens is you eat all this stuff, your blood sugar goes way up to 250, and then you start coming down. And a lot of times you come down faster than you want to too, or you do an insulin correction, because when you check 2 hours later, your blood sugar might be 200 still or whatever. So then you do a correction. So what happens is a lot of times you end up going into a hypoglycemic situation where your blood sugar gets lower than where it needs to be, and which can be very, very, it can be deadly, so you start getting under 70, like you can start feeling maybe a little hand shaky, or maybe get irritated. Like I've had a tendency when I get low blood sugar, I'll just get pissed off for no reason at all. And it's just a temper. So I've even told coworkers, like, hey, if I have a bad attitude, just tell me to check my blood sugar sometimes.
Are you sure it's not low now? No.
Yeah. But I could look, but no, so basically when you're eating a lot of carbs, the typical type 1 diabetic will be on a roller coaster ride of blood sugar. So it's up and down, up and down. And what the American Diabetes Association wants you to be at for like an A1C goal, which is just basically a measurement of what your last 3 months of blood sugars has been, is 7%. So 7% is like an average of like 100 of having your blood sugar be around 180, which is, to me, is high, but that's what they recommend. It's you can actually start doing damage to your body when your blood sugar gets above 120. So there's a lot of long-term complications that come with both type 1 and type 2 diabetes. There are a lot of the same complications between both. So luckily for the wife and I, like the main complications we have had have just been frozen shoulders. Like I've had both frozen shoulders in both of my shoulders. The wife's had frozen shoulder in one of her shoulders. But trying to control your blood sugar is just honestly, with a high carb standard American diet, is just a losing game. And unfortunately, most of the doctors, they still push that. There's very few doctors out there that even talk about low carb. So to get into the low carb side of things, like Trish and I started doing the low carb diet a year ago. We got into that because we actually started exercising in like late 2022. We both wanted to lose some weight. And so that's why we started exercising. And it was actually Greg that shared some like keto Facebook pages with us. And so we started looking into the keto diet and the low carb diet. And then I got on started spending more time on YouTube and just started researching, okay, how does this low carb diet work with type 1? Found some really good doctors that talked about low carb, talked about how you can better flatline your blood sugars. There's a Facebook page out there called Type 1 Grit. And they really drive the low carb, where they push for like a blood sugar average of 83, which I'm not ready for that yet. It's kind of low for me to try to average that low, but they go on a low carb diet, lots of protein, eggs, a lot of the same things that you guys are doing right now. Helps significantly with type 1. And so we've been doing this for a year. My A1Cs, before I started, always ran in like the 6.8 to 7.2 range. My wife has always been phenomenally better than I've been, so she's always ran in the lower 6s. And actually, like there's a stat out there where like only 20% of the people that are type 1 diabetics actually have an A1C of less than 7%, which is pathetic. But I understand why it is that way, because when you're trying to do the standard American diet, it's virtually impossible to run your blood sugars low enough to be below 7%. My last A1C was 5.7%, which is basically almost normal. I mean, it's right on the edge of just not even being in what would be the type 2 pre-diabetic range. So very few type 1 diabetics get in what they call the 5 club, where you're in that 5% range. And there's even fewer more that get into like the 4% range. But a lot of the individuals that are in the type 1 grit plan or program, they have A1Cs in the 4% range. But they're doing some really, really, really strict watching, and I'm not ready to do this strict as they are, but just getting into the 5.7% range has made a huge difference. The low carb diet has just been just been awesome. To be honest with you, it's been very sustainable. It's been a lifestyle change for both Trish and I. The wife has made like a 200-page recipe book with all low carb stuff. On one of the shows you guys had on Monday, Greg mentioned that we eat desserts like every night, which is pretty close to true. But it's stuff like sugar-free pudding with heavy whipping cream, and Trish will just make like a big batch of it, and so we'll have like a week's worth of desserts. That's 0 to 3 carbs, just for the dessert. So it's very, very low carb. Still tastes just as good as anything else. We're honestly eating more desserts now than we ever have, to be honest with you. So it's really good. The other benefits that we've had is we lost a combined 90 pounds between the two of us. And we're both at our ideal weight. So I told you I weighed 205 when I graduated high school. I now weigh like 181. So that's kind of where I want to be. My wife weighs what she did when she was in high school. So like I said, we both are at our ideal, where we want to be weight wise. We do exercise every other day, so that helps out a lot too. There's challenges that come with exercising too. So when you're exercising, that'll drop your blood sugar as well. So we always have to make sure that we have candy or something with us, just in case our blood sugar does drop. But the thing is, when you have a CGM and you can see what your blood sugar is every 5 minutes, you know what's coming. Where prior to having the CGM, it was very difficult to always be poking your finger and checking your blood sugar all the time, just to keep up with it. So I don't necessarily think if I look back, like doing the low carb thing would have been something I would do without a CGM, just because I think it's very important to be able to see where your blood sugar is all the time, so that you don't end up in a hypoglycemic moment without knowing, because that can hit you pretty fast. So having the CGM and knowing what your blood sugars are doing right away to me is really important when you're basically running your blood sugars lower than what the doctors are recommending. Another benefit is probably using half the insulin that I was a year ago. And insulin's not cheap by any means. So, but fortunately, I have good insurance, so the insulin costs are basically nothing for me. But I think, but the fact that I'm using half the insulin, I mean, for people that maybe don't have good insurance, or it's definitely benefits your pocket, when you don't have to spend $279 for one vial of insulin. That's about a 2-week supply for some people. So the costs definitely add up. Unfortunately, what the cost mainly is the CGM. So hopefully that's newer technology. Hopefully as the technology gets older, that the price will come down. But the CGM is the most expensive part of our monitoring of our blood sugars, unfortunately. So yeah, lots of good things. I've read a couple books. One's called The Diabetes Solution by Dr. Bernstein. So he's a huge proponent of low carb, and another one is called Doing Diabetes Differently by Chad Lewis. So those two books both are huge proponents of low carb eating, and so it's a big thing. And you guys I know watch like Dr. Baker, Dr. Berry, and those guys talk about diabetes every once in a while. I just started watching and actually talking to a doctor called Dr. Siwas. He's like the low carb doctor. So he's got a really good page. And it's all focused on low carb. And again, the biggest thing for me right now is that irritates me the most is just how skeptical or how the lack of knowledge that the current doctors have of this low carb, because I've never had any doctor tell me anything about low carb diet. It's always they spend more time managing like what your carb to insulin ratio is, or how much insulin you can take. Are you taking the right amount of insulin? It's always about the insulin and not necessarily as much as how can I take carbohydrates out of your diet to help. There's one other thing that's a big deal is that both books talked about that's talked about quite a bit is the laws of small numbers, so which relates to the carbohydrate intake. So when you're taking less carbs, then you have a less chance of error determining how many carbs you're intaking. So when you're taking 10 carbs and you're 10% off, you're only 1 carb off of how much you're taking. But if you're consuming 70 carbs and you're 10% off, then you're 7 carbs off, which can be make a big difference in your blood sugar, whether you're 7 carbs one way or the other. Yeah. So just having the carbs down and having a less chance of error really helps keep the blood sugars in control, and helps. I mean, obviously you guys all know when you take carbohydrates out, it helps your weight. And when you get your weight under control, it helps your health all over, helps your health all together. So huge impacts. And I think I see, Dr. Bernstein, the guy that wrote the Diabetes Solutions book, he's 89 years old. And so that tells me right there that this is a guy I want to listen to, because he's a type 1 diabetic that's 89 years old. And statistics have shown that type 1 diabetics, their lifespan is usually 11 years less than a person without diabetes. So if you think about, well, the average age of a man gets to, I think it's like 73 now. So that would make my lifespan 62, So it's like, so a couple of years ago, I'm thinking, why the hell am I even worried about how much money I have in my 401k or my retirement plan when type 1 diabetics are only going to live to 62 years old? And then I see an individual that is doing a low carb and taking care of himself, and he's 89 years old. It's like, all right, now it makes sense to have my, if I follow this, I'm going to extend my life. I'm going to eliminate the complications, and I can be more like a normal person. So I think that's the unfortunate, again, I keep getting back, that's the unfortunate thing, that the doctors and even the American Diabetes Association aren't pushing enough or at all. I get on the American Diabetes Association's website, and honestly, all it does is keep popping up there to have you donate money to them, and I just want to flip them the bird. It's like all they want is your money, and they're giving, in my opinion, bad advice. And the right advice is just finding the right people and the right doctors that are educated properly, because it can make a huge difference for a lot of people. And when you show those numbers, like how many people are pre-diabetic, how many people are diabetic. I mean, it's the same thing for everybody. It's the same thing, same diet, same situation. The only difference is my body doesn't make insulin, so I have to give it, I have to inject it myself one way or another. Where type 2 diabetics, they can control with diet. They have to take medication because they have an insulin resistance issue, not a inability to make insulin. But unfortunately, type 2 diabetics, some of them end up taking insulin as well because they're so out of control. And again, the doctors are like, oh, what are the pills that they need to take and how much more insulin they need to take, rather than push the diet. It's all about the diet. And to me, that's, again, I've said it like 10 times now, but that's the unfortunate thing, is the damn diet is not getting promoted. It's just how much more pills and insulin can we shove into somebody. And it's how much more money can these industries make. And
yeah, I hate to say it, but they're not going to make any money off the diet, but they're going to make money off of you having to buy all the pills and so forth.
True. Yep. Healthy people don't make anybody money.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. And there's nobody funding studies on low carb for diabetes because there's not a damn dollar to be made. But there's plenty of money to be made on injecting more insulin or taking more of these pills. I mean, there's type 2, even on your guys' site, like you pop in, and it's probably because I look at a lot of diabetes pages, but half the damn advertisements that I get on YouTube are type 2 diabetes medications. It's like, it's just, it's like ridiculous. It's like there's not anything popping up saying, hey, here's a low carb diet plan you should be following, because that's exactly what people should be following. That could cure so many things. I was just watching or reading an article here recently where there's type 2 diabetes has gotten so out of control, and so many of them are having to take insulin now that they're saying within 13 years there could be an insulin shortage. Now that would be very, very traumatic, and all this can be fixed when 90% of the people just need to change their diet and get shown how to use the proper diet. And again, like the foods that Trish and I are eating they're all great. It's like we've had, I think, 2 bad meals switching to low carb, and we just take those out of the list of things that we eat, and it's like we eat well. And going to restaurants and stuff, I travel a lot for work. It's like you can go to restaurants, you can get low carb meals at restaurants. I know Brian posts a lot of things that he's eaten at like Texas Roadhouse. I'm a big Texas Roadhouse guy too. So it's, I go there, I go to Texas Roadhouse almost every trip I go on, and I get a ribeye, some broccoli, and occasionally I'll get a Michelob Ultra, which is 2.8 carbs, but it's so like the whole meal at Texas Roadhouse, like as long as I stay away from those damn rolls that are very addicting, or it's like less than 10 carbs. So it's real easy to keep control of things. So
you gotta tell them, just don't even bring the rolls out to the
yeah, sometimes they throw them in front of you that before you even have a chance to say it. It's like, yeah, take those out of here. Like,
so what would
the butter is actually I think it's cinnamon and sugar, honey and butter all mixed together. So there's a little bit of sugar in that butter too.
Yeah.
What would you say is the amount of carbs then you eat a day, like per meal? Do you have an idea of that, or do you keep track of that?
Yep. I have to keep track of it. So I probably am in around the 50 to 70 carbs per day range. For example, for breakfast, it's usually less than 10. I used to be a big cereal guy. I used to, like a year and a half ago before I started those. So it was normal for me to just eat a bowl of cereal for breakfast, which would be like 75 carbs. Now I usually eat 2 eggs and sausage, and that's usually it. Sometimes I will every once in a while have we eat it's like Sara Lee 45 calorie bread, which is only like 9 carbs a slice. So occasionally I'll have a piece of toast. So that's 9 carbs for 1 slice. But usually for breakfast, it's 10 carbs or less. Usually for lunch, a lot of times I'll eat leftovers for whatever we had for the night before, or I'll eat a salad. I usually try to keep lunch around 10 to 15 carbs. And then supper time is usually probably in the 20 range. So, and then there's maybe a little bit of snacking in between there, not a lot. Snack wise, I usually eat almonds or peanuts or something that's not carb, or cheese. A lot of similar things to what you guys are doing on keto or low carb. Same situation for me. So 50 to 75 is probably that range, sometimes less.
Do you find a difference, like if you eat certain types of carbs as compared to others, that it affects you differently, or that you're more under control with your diabetes with certain types of carbs? If that makes sense.
There's glycemic indexes for all foods, so you get different. I'll just use pizza as an example. If I eat just a regular piece of pizza, it's the glycemic index for that is, it doesn't hit you right away, so I think it's a little lower. But when it hits you, it's later, but it hits you hard later. It's almost like eating a cupcake, and then it gives you it hits you like an hour later, instead of when, like, if you eat a cupcake will usually hit you right away.
Yeah.
So anything with flour, or I'd say potatoes, or anything, even bread or whatever, it's a lot of it is how much of it you consume too. Sometimes it's good to mix a carbs with protein, because then the protein will help not spike your blood sugar right as fast. It'll be more of a slow rise. But again, there's so many things that affect your blood sugar. Just the lower you run the carbs, the better control and you have, in my experience. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Brian, I was going to give you, I know you're going to be leaving us a little bit earlier tonight than usual, but did you have some questions for Brad that came up while he was talking?
The only thing that I wasn't sure on, your wife is also a type 1, or is she a type 2?
She's type 1. So
okay.
Yep, we both, which is why we work well together. So and honestly, if it wasn't for her, I would not be as good as I am most of the time. So she's over the. I mean, we've been married for over 25 years now, and so we've worked together for a long time. But she's always been very, very good, even before low carb, at managing it. I kind of told you what I eat on a day, but she kind of does 2 meals a day. So she does the coffee thing for breakfast every morning. The only time she really eats breakfast is on the weekends. I make us omelets. So she starts with coffee every day. And then at lunch, she usually doesn't eat much for lunch. And then she just has a decent sized meal. And she's kind of always done that even before we got into the low carb thing. So she kind of had a better diet going than what I did well before we started the low carb thing.
Cool.
But it definitely helps, because it helps having that support, because people that don't have type 1 diabetes, it's hard for them to understand, what you're doing and what you have to do, and how you have to manage it. A lot of people, they think you just can't have sugar at all. Like, it's almost like sugar will kill you, which you shouldn't have the sugar as much as you could, but it's not like you have to completely get away from it. But when I say that, that's kind of another one of those bad advice things that that a lot of the doctors and American Diabetes Association and stuff, there's a lot of oh, you can eat whatever you want going around, just because all you got to do is take more insulin to cover it. And that is the worst advice that anybody could give. But that's a lot of the advice that's being given, to be honest with you. Here are people, when they get put to the hospital for the first time being diagnosed, and they get waffles their first day with regular syrup on it for the first day in the hospital. It's like, what the hell are they doing to these people? So.
All right. Hey, I just want to give Brian an opportunity to speak here before he heads out here. But Brian, it's good having you on again tonight, doing the show with you. But I just wanted to give you a chance to greet your viewers before you head out here. But we're going to stick around a while and talk to Brad. Me and Aaron are. So hang in there, team.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I have another commitment that I have to go to, so I have to leave a little early tonight. But you guys keep going. Brad, again, it's great talking to you, like usual, and I'll see you guys again next Thursday, Brad. I'm sure we'll be talking on YouTube whenever, right? So
sorry I didn't bring any sardines.
Oh, that's okay. I got them around here somewhere.
Your air freshener ready.
All right. Bye, everybody.
See you, Brian.
Bye, Brian.
Take care.
I actually thought about buying a can of sardines and just start off by eating the sardine right off the bat.
That would have been good.
Yeah, the ones with the bone still in them.
Yeah.
That's funny. Brad, I have a question for you. It just kind of came to mind, especially when you looked at the stats of the number of pre-diabetic people. What advice would you give that anyone who's pre-diabetic? Obviously, there's almost 100 million people out there, and a lot of them don't know that they have it. But what advice would you give them to change that? And the same goes for type 2 diabetes. What advice would you give them?
I mean, the biggest thing is just diet and getting right with the right doctor that understands the diet situation and understands low carb, understands how low carb can work for you. Because I think if the doctor's not a proponent of low carb, then you need to find another doctor, is my opinion. I think there's so many uneducated doctors out there that give the wrong advice. It's find the right doctor that is more focused on you losing weight and getting the diet that can help you lose weight than a doctor that's just going to help be a proponent of pills.
Yeah.
So
makes sense. I see Arlene has a comment here that her husband and her had type 2, were on keto for 4 years, got off the medication, started carnivore 5 months ago, and husband started carnivore 4 months ago and just got off insulin about a month ago. So that's awesome. Congratulations.
Nice.
Because diet is the answer to most diabetic situations. I mean, I'll always be taking insulin because my body doesn't produce it. But I can control how much insulin I take. I do 2 diabetics. They're, like I said, they're in an insulin resistant situation. So it's a matter of getting their body reacclimated and getting the carbs out of there, the things that are causing them to be insulin resistant. It's just getting the right doctor and get on YouTube and do your research, because there's so many good people, good doctors out there that are willing to share, honestly, almost willing to put their asses on the line, because there's a lot of doctors that are completely against this way of living, way of eating, or way of dieting. And I don't know if they're probably getting funds from selling more medication or something, but honestly, it's just getting the right diet is honestly a fix for a lot of things.
Seems like we're being bamboozled on a lot of things.
Well, imagine when I've been doing this for 33 years, right? And it's just the last year that I've really found out about low carb. So it's like I've been filled full of BS for the last 32 years, right? So it shouldn't have taken me having my best friend show me keto stuff for me to all of a sudden find out hey, there's a different way to do things because I found YouTube pages or YouTube channels that talk about doing
God
things
he
different.
did, right?
Yeah, I didn't
Like-
find any of this stuff out from any of my doctors.
So when we're talking type 1, we're talking it's autoimmune, correct?
Yep. So
Okay.
my body basically attacked itself, years ago and killed my pancreas's ability to produce insulin.
Did you have this, or do they think that you suffered from this for longer prior to diagnosis, or was there something that triggered it? Like, did they ever even go into that with you, or what do you think about that?
I think they don't really know. I feel like I probably had it, well before it probably, because it takes time for it to happen. It doesn't just happen overnight when you'll just slowly quit producing insulin on your own. So I think I even mentioned this to Greg once. I feel like I probably had this happening to me for like a couple of years before I actually got to a point where my body started showing the effects of not producing insulin anymore. So, and then, they just don't know. Like, it's possible that they say you could have got a virus and that's what caused your body to attack your pancreas. So there's just not enough knowledge out there to know. So
I see Arlene read Dr. Bernstein's book on diabetes, and looks like her grandfather had both legs amputated at age 75, and she's 76, and she has had bad painful neuropathy in her feet, and then she found the low carb diet. So
yeah, and hopefully that helps. It should help. There's a lot of people that have had neuropathy or had the eye issues or things like that they've been able to reverse that stuff by getting their carbohydrates down and getting their weight back in control. And you can reverse a lot of the symptoms.
As I was doing some research on finding the trivia questions, I didn't realize that it was an autoimmune issue for type 1. I didn't know that. So I learned something new today as well. And I think a lot of people probably don't know that, so I think it's good that was brought up. Go ahead, Aaron.
It's concerning to me because I have celiac, and a lot of times the diabetes and the other autoimmune diseases tend to run alongside of that. Like, I know people with celiac that also are diabetic and whatnot. So, I'm always watching out for stuff like that. But that leads me to another question for you, Brad. Going in there as an 18-year-old, losing all this weight, how quickly did they discover that this was the issue? I mean, was this something that they were looking for immediately, or did they just find it because they started to run a bunch of blood work, or how did this come about initially?
So when I went to the doctor, initially he thought I might have an ulcer. I was just stressed out because I was going to college, but then I kept explaining all the symptoms I had with all the constant urination and tired. And then he's like, all right, let's do a blood check on you quick.
Okay.
And then they checked my blood sugar and it was over 600, which is 6 times what it should be. And so that was immediate. Okay, you're type 1 diabetic. And then that's when they basically put me in the hospital that day. So I went from my general practitioner's office straight to the hospital.
Wow.
And I was really dehydrated. So I actually gained like 8 pounds overnight just on fluids because I was so dehydrated.
I remember back then you couldn't drink enough. We'd go to Taco John's. You'd hardly eat your food, and then you would just keep slamming the big gulps. You know what I mean?
Yep. And then 2 minutes later, I'd pee all those big gulps out.
Yeah.
So you guys have known each other for that long, huh?
Yeah, we were sophomore or freshman in high school.
Oh my God, that's awesome. So cool.
Deb said she had severe neuropathy due to back injury. Some doctors consider type 2 also autoimmune. So let's see here. Arlene has a comment too. In 2020, she binge watched every low carb thing she could find and bought Dr. Fung's book too, and also watched him along with Dr. Barry. You still don't have all the feeling back in your toes and 3 fingers. Well, maybe you can work on that yet, Arlene. There's a possibility, especially since you changed your way of eating. You just never know.
Brad, do you have doctors now that do you explain to them what you're doing, and what is their viewpoint on that when you tell them that you're doing the low carb thing?
So I have an endocrinologist for my diabetes, and then I have a general doctor. My doctor my general doctor just left for Utah, so I have a new doctor now, which I haven't talked to yet. But my endocrinologist, she's the one that like works with me on my pump settings and all that stuff. I did when I had my last A1C of 5.7. As she, I explained to her I was doing the low carb thing, everything that I was doing, and she just looked at my numbers and she was really happy. I think I even told Greg, like, if this doctor's appointment doesn't go well, I'm going to fire her if she argues about what I've done. But she didn't. She was supportive. We'll see how. But again, she never talked to me about low carb. It's just, what did you do to get a 5.7 A1C? And it's like, this is what I did. And it's like, probably other people should know about this, So my next appointment, I'm going to talk even further to her about why is this not being communicated out, or why wasn't I talked to more, and just try to understand more her point of view. Is it just a risk thing where they're worried about people getting hypoglycemic moments or whatever, or worried about their patients dying or what? Because honestly, on this diet, for me anyways, it's been so much better control that I have less low blood sugars. I still have low blood sugars and still probably have more low blood sugars than I'd like to, but I at least know when they're coming. That's one thing I do want to continue to get better is how many low blood sugars I do have. But
that's awesome. Arlene can open water bottles again since started carnivore. That's cool.
It's good.
Glad he can do that again. That's a big deal. Here's a question. Have you experienced rashes with the adhesive for the pump or CGM? If so, what did you do about it? A great question.
I don't think I haven't necessarily had rashes, but it's definitely gotten like sore, or it's a little red or pink or whatever underneath it. And I usually just put lotion on. Usually for me, it's always gone away. It hasn't been a long-term deal. So
I wonder if they make different ones, because I am not diabetic and don't utilize these devices, but I have the same issue with adhesive. They have to give me special adhesive, special bandages. They must make something for people that have that problem, considering there's so many people that utilize these devices. I would think
they could. I don't know. I haven't looked into the different things. I know we get like overlay patches for if you're going to be super active, or sometimes the adhesive starts to fail before it's over with. They last 10 days. You move them every 10 days. So sometimes it starts failing, and then you can put a patch over it so it doesn't fall off. But there's a few different things out there.
Yes.
Latex-free adhesives.
Yeah.
Yep. I was going to say, if anybody has any questions, go ahead and put a Q in front of it. Brad will be happy to answer. Me and Aaron will try.
So interesting. Just a little question, not so much related to, it's kind of personal. I hope it's okay. But did your wife and you meet because of both having the type 1 diabetes?
No, I had the hots for the receptionist at work. So and then I found out she was a type 1 after we met.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Not too long after we met, but yeah, my wife was, she was the receptionist at work.
Did that seal the deal? Oh my God, we have so much in common.
Well, I'm sure it helped. I mean, I'm sure it helped both of us, when because people that don't have it don't understand what you go through. So
yeah. Here's another question. What ratio are you currently using for carb control?
I think I'm at like 1 unit for 8 carbs right now.
So 1 unit for 8 carbs on that.
And then I use I get about 1 unit of insulin per hour all day long.
So you need to take it every day, no matter what, just in a lesser
So
amount,
what
depending.
I have an insulin pump. So what that does is it slowly gives me insulin all day long. So it's constantly feeding me insulin at a low rate all day long. And then when I take a meal, I put in how many carbs that I'm using, and then it'll give me an extra bump of insulin to cover the carbohydrates.
That's amazing. That's got to make life so much easier.
It's a hell of a lot better than all the taking
Like
shots and
the finger pricks and everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the finger pricks. And I mean, I
Yeah.
still have to check, still have to do the finger prick every once in a while. The CGMs aren't perfect by any means. Still have to calibrate it, make sure it just double check the accuracy of it, because every once in a while, sometimes I think it's just how well the CGM went into the location you put it in, and it needs to be calibrated. Sometimes it just doesn't give you good numbers, and you have to redo it. But
here's a question for you, Brad. What do you eat daily? Dr. Bernstein's diet is the same every day, like boiled eggs, smoked salmon, and a few other foods like maybe avocado. So then he knows how much insulin to give.
Yep. So like I talked before, I eat a lot of eggs now for breakfast. So it's usually eggs for breakfast. Usually it's a lot of protein. So same type of thing. I actually eat salmon probably every other weekend because I go salmon fishing once a year and fill my freezer full of salmon. So I have that available plus fish. But generally it's always a lot of protein now with the low carb diet. So.
All right. I was going to say, Brad, I remember back in the day, you always had a cooler that you brought with you with the insulin in it.
Yeah. Yep. I
It's
have
probably been a long time since you did that, but I do remember that.
Yeah. So the insulin in a pump usually lasts like 3 to 4 days. So you have to change we just say changing our pump out, which is basically putting more insulin in it for another 3 to 4 days. So before I always had a little packet that had a freezer pack in it with the insulin, and always carrying that stuff around.
And here we have another question. So does the CGM and the insulin pump work together, or is it a manual input?
Yep. So I have a tandem insulin pump, and then I have a Dexcom CGM. The CGM has a transmitter that feeds the information, the data to the pump. So I look at my pump when I want to see what my blood sugar is. And then when I do take a bump of insulin for what I'm eating, then I do have to manually put that carbohydrate number in so it gives me the right amount of insulin. Now there is different technologies where you can have your insulin pump automatically start giving you a little more insulin when your blood sugar gets higher. I'm not ready for that yet because I'm not truly on board with the accuracy of the CGM to let it give me more insulin yet. I want to see it I'd like to see it be more accurate. So I'm just not. There's a lot of people that do it, but I'm not ready for that yet. I don't trust it enough yet. Let's just say that.
Sure. And another question: have you experienced a low because of too much insulin from your pump? Have you had that happen?
I would say I wouldn't say it was the pump's fault. I would say it's the
user
inaccuracy of the carbs. So a lot of times it's like when you go out to eat, it's hard to determine how many carbs you're actually eating because you're at a restaurant. And you go to a regular restaurant, they don't have carbs or nutrition information, so you just kind of look at what you're eating and guess. So usually it's just guessing incorrectly. I've never had a pump feed more insulin than it's supposed to, or luckily never had any issues mechanically with an insulin pump.
It's all great questions. If you have some more, go ahead and throw them out there. We like to answer.
And again, that's even going out to eat at restaurants, like I mentioned before. It's like picking the things that are low carb. Helps out significantly with not guessing wrong. So,
Brad, I guess I kind of got a question too. Since you've been on low carb, how would you say your stomach handles the food compared to before? You know, with being on a low carb diet, being diabetic, I mean, how does it impact your stomach now compared to what it used to be?
I don't really have stomach issues. I would probably have a bowel movement a lot less.
Yeah, well, yeah,
It's
that's
like
kind of what I was
like
referring
constantly, it's
to.
like
Yeah.
having bowel movements, you know, every couple days instead of every day. You know, it's like it's definitely less. But we usually don't have a stomach issue. Sometimes the stomach gets a little upset when the blood sugar gets low. But that doesn't happen too often. But for the most part, been very good at not having stomach issues, I guess.
Yeah. Deb says you should be able to ask the cook for the nutrition information. I agree. It should all be available for people to look at, especially when you're ordering food. And that would be nice.
I mean, a lot of the fast food restaurants and stuff, you can get the carbs from the, you know, you can get the nutritional information at a lot of the fast food restaurants or franchise restaurants. But you go to like a family restaurant or whatever, that's where sometimes it can be difficult because you don't know. And I guess I don't always ask because I just know that it's not readily available.
Here's a good question for you, Brad. Are you a net carb or a total carb guy?
I am a total carb guy, so I don't follow net carbs. There's only there's only a couple things where the net carbs may be a little more accurate than the all-in carbs, but usually there's protein bars out that I've eaten where the full all-in carbs will be 21 grams, the net carbs might be 12. And if I eat that protein bar, I'll take like in the middle, so like 17. So, and that's what a lot of like my endocrinologists would say, like split that difference in half. Because a lot of times they'll tell you to subtract the fiber, you know, to get the net carbs. It's usually you're subtracting the fiber and you're subtracting the sugar alcohols, and then that gets the net carbs. My honest opinion about net carbs is just a bunch of marketing BS to have people get you to buy these so-called diet products, but they're still not necessarily diet products. So wife and I both, we always look at what the all-in carbs are because net carbs is usually not good for us. Let's just say that, like, it usually affects our blood sugars more towards the all-in carbs than the net carbs.
Yeah, I see that a lot with like the zero carb tortillas. That I actually did a review on them like a year ago, and some people were saying it was spiking their blood sugar, some people not. It just depended on the individual.
Different people respond differently. It's the same thing with type 1 with everybody. It's like different type 1s will respond differently to the same thing, you know. So it's not a one plan for everybody. I mean, the wife and I, we have different reactions. We eat the same things and our blood sugars will do different things. It's not like we're following the exact same blood sugars all day long, even though we eat a lot of the same things. It doesn't work that. It's not that accurate.
Yeah.
And also getting back to I know Deb was asking about the nutrition information and you had touched on it before, Brad, and this was something I didn't even know until recently about the labeling requirements and how they don't have to be exact. Like they can be off by a certain percentage. I think you said 20%. I've even heard it could be higher than that. So you just don't know what you're getting when you're going out, if you're getting nutritional information or on a product from the store. And like you said, you're cautious about it.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. You have to be. And then a lot of it is just time and trial, right? So it's like you just keep trying things and you see what it does to you, and then you learn. I mean, when I've been diabetic for 33 years, you learn how things affect you, you know, over time. Because
All right. Arlene says the other night we ate salt and vinegar pork rinds, and oops, it had maltodextrin in it, and I did get a little pain from it. I used to have very painful arthritis nightly until 1 year low carb. It was gone. So your body healed over time on that, eating that way. And I see a lot of people talk about that, eat a certain way. You know, it takes a while for your body to heal when you do that. So I could definitely see that being the issue. I guess I need to pay attention to look for that maltodextrin because, today my arthritis was really bad, and I don't know if it's because the weather was changing. It's supposed to be colder or what, but because I've been eating pretty good this week, so I don't know what caused it, but it sure flared up today.
Yeah, you definitely have to read the labels because even the sugar-free stuff, they'll call it sugar-free, but it'll have something else that's just as bad for you as sugar in it.
Or a million names for sugar, like I believe
Right, yeah,
maltodextrin is a sugar, correct? So
yeah. And then like the low fat, that whole low fat thing went on for a while where that was all garbage too, in my opinion. It was it's just another advertising thing, another thing to get people to buy their product. And low fat doesn't necessarily mean low carb or low sugar, low anything. It's just a marketing campaign. So we just do the best, watching the carbs, looking at what the carbs are and understanding that. But
here's another question. Do you consider glycogenesis while preparing your mealtime insulin on your pump?
you'll have to, I don't know what the hell that is. So gluconeogenesis.
Yeah, I might have said it wrong. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure what that is. Is that like the glycemic index of the? I don't know what that word means.
Can answer that or give us some more info. 1 tortilla and 4 eggs daily. Yeah, there's a lot of people that eat them, and I think they serve a purpose. But I really don't eat those much anymore, for sure. But they make great pizza crust if you want a low carb pizza. But yeah, I don't usually eat them that way anymore. I was going to say, if you have more questions, now's the time to get them in because we're going to be wrapping up here pretty soon. Brad, you and your wife have done an amazing job, not only managing your diabetes, but losing 90 pounds, in a short period of time too. You guys, you were killing it. And I know you're getting a lot of walking in. What do obviously the low carb diet helped you. And were you still eating mostly the 50 to 70 carbs a day when you were doing I know now you're more maintaining, but what were you mainly in that range for carbs per day?
Yeah, same range. Like we're still doing the same diet right now that we were back. I think we both lost all the weight like in the first 6 months of the year. So I know I've been pretty much the same weight. Both of us have been the same weight for like the last probably 5 or 6 months. So we're just in maintain mode.
Yeah. I know you've been doing a lot more physical activity, like
we work out every other day. We're kind of in the winter plan right now because when the weather's nice, we walk 4 miles every other day. That's just kind of our routine. And then now, like I do a lot more weightlifting. Still do ellipticals, and we have an elliptical and a treadmill, so still get on that. Trish does a lot of like stretching exercises and more things like that. So she's got her routine that she does, and I got my routine. And I know right when the weather starts getting nicer, we'll get back to our every other day, just walking.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I just saw the definition there. I looked it up too while we were right here.
I didn't want to answer it wrong because I had an idea,
but yeah, I don't get that deep into it. I do know that it takes longer for the protein to turn into the sugar. So we got to kind of watch that. But I don't get that deep into it.
So are you always careful to pair, like you wouldn't just have a very high protein meal without a fat, or do you know what I'm saying? Like, would that also spike your blood sugar? I think that might be part of the question too.
Yeah, I don't look at I'll just eat protein. I don't worry too much about whether it's high in fat or not. I mean, I love ribeyes, so I like ribeyes, but we eat a lot of chicken. When I cook my salmon, I cover it in butter, so it's yeah. But I don't know. I always make sure there's a little bit of fat. We definitely eat butter along with a lot of the stuff too. So Otherwise,
I
I
was gonna say-
will say you will get, and you guys know this, the carnivore side of things, you'll get, if you don't have enough fat, you'll get constipated. So that does happen. So just making sure that you,
Add butter.
cover it with a little fat too helps.
I was going to say, Ron said his son has to consider 20% of his ingested protein into his ratio. So,
Okay.
Yep. Arlene says she ate carnivore and went down. A1C went down to 5.8. So she'll see what the doctor says in about a month, and it should be down a lot lower since we're carnivore and have been really faithful. We do drink coffee, so no, that's great, Arlene. You guys have improved your health greatly, so keep up the good work. All this food talk is making you hungry, huh, Deb? It works that way sometimes. There you go, champion within.
Thanks,
Johnny's
John.
saying Brad's killing it, and he is. He's doing a great
John's a really inspirational guy. All the stuff he's doing, so it's nice watching his progress for sure.
Age is just a number with Johnny, and he's showing it. It's like he's done an amazing job.
Yeah, he definitely beat us in a push-up challenge.
Yeah, oh yeah. He could have probably did push-ups with me sitting on his back. Well, I don't know about that, but maybe. Oh,
so
hey,
I do have
Arlene.
one last question for you. So since going low carb, obviously it helps a lot with your diabetes, but have you noticed any other improvements in other things that maybe you didn't realize, symptoms that you had that you didn't even think could be connected to it, and the low carb kind of fixed those things like we hear so often?
I definitely think I got more energy for sure. I used to always be really tired at night. I'm not as tired anymore. I think that makes a difference. So some of that may just be the exercise routine. Like neither one of us have ever done so well exercise wise and stuck to our routine. I mean, we've been doing it for over a year now. So that's a telltale right there that we have plenty of energy and just getting a lot more things done. So I think my skin's probably a little bit better. I don't get I notice I used to always get really itchy in the winter with the dry air and stuff. And this year I haven't been not at all itchy. I'd get the old back scratcher out and just be scratching the hell out of my back. And it's like, I don't have to do that anymore. So I'm sure I'm guessing that has something to do with it. Yeah, it's and you can tell, I mean, when you take, I've lost over 55 pounds, I think. So it just makes a big difference in just how you handle yourself and how you feel about yourself and everything. So definitely mental gains too.
You probably quit snoring.
You'll have to ask Trish. She hasn't punched me in the face for a while, so maybe it's not as bad.
That's funny.
I was just saying. Hey, just realized no chapped lip. That's great. Well, Brad, we really appreciate you coming on the show tonight, and
thanks for having me.
There's a ton of good information here, and I know I'm gonna definitely push this show out, the after the fact, for the fact that there is so much good information on anybody that's doing low carb diet, anybody that's doing, if they have diabetes, type 1, type 2, or they're pre-diabetic. There's so much good information in this show tonight. And some of our viewers have said that. I mean, there's a lot of people are real appreciative of coming on and talking about that, Brad. So I just want to thank you again for coming on.
Hey, just to answer Trish just sent me a text because she's actually watching the show on the TV downstairs. She just says I don't snore as much. There
you go. So low carb diet takes care of snoring.
That's great.
There's another benefit. The wife sleeps better. And happy wife, happy life.
Happy life. You know what they say.
Yep, exactly. So, all right. Well, I want to I'll give you guys a chance, I guess, to any final parting words that you have for the viewers tonight. Brad, we'll start with you.
All right, I guess just thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. Like, I don't have the big channels going like you guys do. I only have one video out there, so I'm sure I'll get some other ones out there. I think the message is needed for sure. So, yeah, so low carb diet been very successful, and I recommend it. I'm not a doctor, but our experience has been nothing but good. So,
Yeah.
Awesome.
and thanks to you guys, Aaron and Greg, and obviously Brian's gone, for all the stuff you guys do. It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to tell you, Brad, say to you, Brad, too, I'll give you a recording of this so you can post it on your channel too, because the information is great. So you might as well put it on your channel too. I think that'd be good. But Aaron, what are your parting words?
Just thank you so much, Brad, for coming on. I think this was definitely informative for a lot of people. I recognize people in the chat. I'm sure there are other people watching that we don't know, because it's such a great topic. And, just hopefully this can help somebody who maybe, has that situation where they're not receiving any information on diet, and can make all the difference for them. So, so thank you so much.
Sorry, guys. I was just typing this in the comments. Brad's channel can be found at Low Carb Type 1 Wolf, all one, on YouTube. So I put it in the comments there. Just make sure you put the @ symbol in front of it. And it's also on the ticker on the bottom there. But definitely good to have you. And I just want to thank everybody who joined us tonight and tuned in. And of course, I want to thank Brad. Me and Brad have been friends for a long time, and it's good to get you on here and share your story and your successes. And Trish isn't on camera, but I know her story is pretty amazing too. And she's done an amazing transformation, and she looks great. And you guys should both be congratulated for all your successes. And I'm happy to hear that you're been able to manage your diabetes so much better with this way of eating. I think you're adding years to your life. There's no doubt in my mind on that one. So great job. And I just want to thank Brian, and of course he's gone, and Aaron, the lovely Aaron. I must say, Aaron's a sweetheart. So we're so glad she's part of the team and on this show. And I was just going to say, I just want to thank the viewers again for tuning in and watching, and looking forward to the show next week. Just so you guys know, we are going to have a semi-retired Bob on the show, and that'll be at 7:00 Eastern Standard Time. We're going to have him on here, and I'm sure we'll talk about something interesting for sure. So I don't think we have a specific topic picked out, but it'll be carnivore, I'm sure, related. So keep that in mind. But thanks again for tuning in, everyone, and we'll see you again soon. And thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for coming. Please drive home safely.